They thought you were finished. God just said, "Watch this. I need you to stop scrolling. Plant your feet firmly on the ground and listen to the sound of my voice right now as if your very spirit depends on it. Do not skip a single second of this because the algorithm did not bring you here. And this is absolutely not a coincidence. You have been pulled aside by the divine, orchestrated by your angels and the Creator himself for a highly classified, incredibly urgent conversation about the absolute turning point of your life. I am speaking directly to the person who has been quietly bleeding out in the background. I am talking to the chosen one who has recently walked through a season so incredibly dark, so brutally exhausting, and so deeply humiliating that it practically shattered your spirit into pieces. You hit a wall that no one else saw coming. Your plans collapsed, your resources dried up, and you were forced down onto your hands and knees in the dirt. But the most agonizing part of this entire season wasn't the loss of the job, the money, or the opportunity. The absolute most devastating part was the deafening silence of the people you thought would be there to help you stand back up. I want to validate exactly what you went through because the universe saw every single detail of that betrayal. You watched with tears in your eyes and a completely broken heart as the people who swore they would ride with you until the wheels fell off suddenly developed amnesia. The moment you stopped being useful to them, the moment you had nothing left to give, to fund, or to fix, they vanished. Your phone completely stopped ringing. Your texts were left on read. People you had literally broken your own back to help in their time of need suddenly didn't have 5 minutes to spare for you. You were left completely stranded in the most terrifying wilderness of your life, entirely isolated, forced to navigate a storm that you did not deserve. And while you were sitting there in the dark, desperately trying to hold the fragile pieces of your sanity together, something even more sinister was happening just outside your door. You became a spectacle. You know exactly what I am talking about. You felt the energy of their judgment. You knew they were whispering about you behind closed doors. You could feel the sickening heavy vibration of their pity mixed with a secret twisted satisfaction. They looked at your collapsed reality. They looked at your struggle and they arrogantly, foolishly decided that your chapter was permanently closed. They wrote you off. They looked at your life and said, well, that's it for them. They had their run and now they finished. Some of them even smiled at your downfall, relieved that the light you carry was finally dimmed because your brilliance had always intimidated them. They put a final massive period at the end of a sentence where God had only placed a comma. They genuinely believed that your current temporary circumstance was your permanent destiny. They counted you out. They threw dirt on your name and walked away fully expecting you to stay buried. And for a little while, the absolute tragedy is that their cruelty almost worked. You started to believe their narrative. You looked at your own bruised, exhausted reflection in the mirror and you asked God, is this it? Is this how my story ends? Did I do all of this, give all of this love, fight all of these battles just to end up as a cautionary tale? You cried yourself to sleep, feeling the agonizing sting of being entirely misunderstood and deeply underestimated. But I am here today, right now, as a direct messenger from the spiritual realm to tell you that those people made the most catastrophic miscalculation of their entire lives. They judged your book by a single dark chapter. They looked at the dirt being thrown on you and thought they were watching a burial. They had absolutely no idea that the universe was not burying you. It was planting you. The season of scorn is officially over. The audience has taken their seats. The curtain is about to rise. And God has just looked at every single person who thought you were finished, pointed directly at your life and said, watch this. You have to understand the profound spiritual mechanics of what you just survived. Because if you look at your wilderness season through human eyes, it looks exactly like a graveyard. It looks like you lost everything. It looks like your prayers were hitting a brass ceiling, bouncing right back down to the floor, leaving you completely ignored by the universe. But I need to shatter that illusion for you right now because your spiritual eyes need to be open to the absolute truth of your isolation. You were not abandoned and you were certainly not buried. You were placed into a divine quarantine. The Creator looked at your life, looked at the massive, unprecedented level of blessing, influence, and wealth that you were destined to carry and realized that your current environment was far too toxic to sustain it. The people you were surrounded by, the ones you were desperately trying to hold on to, were parasites to your destiny. If God had poured the next level of your blessing into your life while those people still had access to you, they would have drained it completely dry. They would have attached themselves to your success, fed off your light, and ultimately destroyed the very kingdom you were trying to build. So God had to pull you out. He had to orchestrate a season where everything fell apart, where the superficial ties were violently severed so that the people who were not meant for your future would voluntarily walk away. It hurt like hell. I know it did because your heart is so pure that you wanted to take everyone with you to the top. But the wilderness was never meant to break you. It was a highly specialized divine incubator designed to shield you while you were being completely rewired. The isolation you hated, the loneliness that kept you awake at night, that was the universe placing a protective hedge around you. You were hidden in the shadows because you were under construction. You were undergoing a spiritual surgery with absolute razor-sharp precision. The universe was painstakingly stripping away your people-pleasing habits, your fear of rejection, and your reliance on the validation of others. You had to learn how to stand entirely alone with nothing but your faith, so that when you are finally placed on the throne of your destiny, no human being can ever claim that they put you there, and no human being will ever have the power to tear you down. I know there were days when you wept and asked God why he was so agonizingly silent. You felt like you were screaming into a void. But you must understand that the silence of God is never a sign of his absence. It is the absolute proof of his intense focused work. Think about a seed that has just been pushed deep into the dirt. In that soil, it is pitch black. It is heavy. It is completely silent. To the seed, it feels like it has been buried alive and forgotten by the sun. But in that terrifying darkness, the most violent miraculous transformation is occurring. The outer shell is breaking and the roots are desperately pushing deeper and deeper into the earth, anchoring themselves so fiercely that when the tree finally shoots above the ground, absolutely no storm will ever be able to uproot it. Your silence was your rooting process. God wasn't ignoring you. He was drafting the intricate, monumental blueprint of your comeback. He was preparing the table in the presence of your enemies. He was setting the stage for the greatest plot twist your bloodline has ever witnessed. And now the blueprint is finished. The roots have taken hold. The agonizing pressure of the dirt has served its purpose and the outer shell of your old identity has completely cracked open. You are no longer the fragile, exhausted person who walked into that wilderness. You have been forged into an absolute weapon of light and the season of your hiding has officially expired. We are now crossing the exact threshold of your vindication. The period of your hidden preparation has struck midnight. The alarm has sounded in the heavenly realms and the pendulum of your life is violently swinging back in your direction with a force that cannot be stopped by any human hand. This is the exact moment of the divine plot twist. The Creator is stepping out of the shadows, looking directly at the spiritual and physical forces that mocked your downfall, looking at the people who walked away when you had nothing. And he is declaring with absolute earth-shaking authority, "Watch this. I need you to feel the massive shift in the energetic momentum surrounding your life right now. The wind is no longer blowing against you. It has shifted and it is now catching your sails to propel you forward at a breathtaking supernatural speed. The chapter of the underdog, the chapter of being the victim of circumstance is officially being ripped out of your book and burned to ashes. I want you to prepare your mind for the profound, almost comical reversal that is about to take place in your physical reality. The doors that were maliciously, confidently slammed directly in your face are about to be ripped off their hinges.